Hi, today I want to talk about something that can really affect our confidence, and that's receiving feedback. And yes, I'm talking about the constructive feedback. You know, that part where they say, while we appreciate you, here are the things that we think you could be doing better. That can be hard to hear and it can really affect our confidence. So I have a few tips and tricks that you could use to get out of those conversations a bit stronger. So my first tip is to really listen. And when I mean really listen, I mean all of the active listening techniques. What are the exact words they're using? What's their tone of voice like? What's their facial expression? Do they use any gestures, body language, anything I can find out? And also try to use this time to find out as much as you can about the person who's giving you the feedback. What are their values? What are they saying? What are the kind of situations that they're describing? Now, apart from making sure that you're hearing the feedback as detailed and as factually and as clearly as possible, you're also trying to preoccupy your mind or to occupy your mind with that information so that you're quieting that inner voice that likes to kick in, interpret what you hear, and might make you feel defensive. One example, the person giving you feedback might be saying something like, well, personally, I come to the office early in the morning. They've just shared something about themselves, but our mind likes to interpret that and ask, well, what does that say about me? Do they want me to come in earlier? Are they criticizing me for not coming in earlier? Are they saying perhaps that I'm always late? That's not what they said. But our mind likes to interpret and maybe hear something different. And that's a cause for many a misunderstanding in this world. So anything you can do to avoid misunderstandings or, having your mind exaggerate the information that you're hearing will help you maintain your self-confidence. Another technique or another tip that I have for you is visualization, where what I like to do is I like to imagine a table in the room if there isn't one already. And I imagine that feedback that I'm receiving to go on the table first. And then I get to examine what's on the table and I decide on what I pick up and take on for myself. Because sometimes we receive information or feedback that we just can't agree with and that we find hurtful or not useful. And we're not obliged to take that on. And that brings me to tip number 3, is to remember you're getting another person's opinion. Now, that other person may be very important and their opinion may be very qualified and their opinion may be important to you as well. But it is an opinion. It's another person who's observed you and has observed situations, but they're not with you 24/7. They can't look inside your head. They don't always know your intention. They don't know your thoughts, your history, or, the core of your being. So they are giving an outside opinion. And while that's very valuable, and especially getting that other perspective, it's not the truth with a capital T. So you're not obliged to take on everything that they say. And if you find that there's anything there that could be hurtful to you, or you're just not ready to take that on, leave that on the table. Now, finally, I'd like to remind you of something that our mind likes to do, and that's it's something called negativity bias. Now, what I mean with that, it's been found in studies that we have a tendency to pay more attention to negative information than to positive information. And that's how, after a lot of feedback situations, you may be getting a lot of positive feedback, but you leave the conversation just thinking about that one thing that they mentioned that's not going well. And that may be due to negativity bias. Now, I don't have a trick on how to switch it off other than to become aware of it and to remind yourself that you may be just placing too much attention on this one piece of information and that you should also remember the rest of the conversation and all of the good things that you've just been told. So I hope these tips are helpful for you. I would love to hear your feedback on this topic. What are your thoughts? Do you have a tip on, what do you do in those situations to make sure you get out of that conversation with your confidence still intact? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you soon.